Hi, everyone, and welcome to the episode on immigration, the first episode on immigration. Today, we're going to be talking about really the arrival of immigrants and the experience in the United States of getting to Ellis Island. Here you see really kind of a very, kind of a horrifying image of the mass humanity that was there on any ship heading from Europe to the New World. And there you see up there, up near the top of the ship or near the top of the picture, you see some of the lifeboats. And there's no way there's enough lifeboats, at least in that image, to fit the humanity that's on deck. And a lot of these people stayed in very cramped quarters below deck, obviously, in what were called steerage because they were packed together like steer, like cattle. And most immigrants didn't really necessarily complain that much about that experience because it gave them a cheaper way to get from the old world, Europe, to the new world, which was for most of them, their final destination was the United States of America. And for most immigrants coming from Europe, that destination would be at New York Harbor. What I want you to do is read a walk through Ellis Island, which is part of your immigration packet. And I want you to think, so this is Ellis Island. It was the point of entry for many immigrants after 1890. It is called Ellis Island because it is an island. It is in New York Harbor. And you're going to see here in a moment exactly where it is situated in New York Harbor. Prior to 1890, when you immigrated to New York or anywhere in New York, you actually landed on the mainland. You landed in Lower Manhattan at a place called Castle Garden, which you'll actually see in a political cartoon that we'll look at in another episode. But you arrived here at Ellis Island, you got off of your boat, and you went into this kind of lower area of Ellis Island, and then you went upstairs for the examination. But now let's go ahead and look. You can kind of see where Ellis Island is within the New York skyline. So here would be Manhattan. Here's the Statue of Liberty. So a boat comes into New York Harbor, passes the Statue of Liberty, and goes right here. So again, you see Ellis Island. You can see those windows that are this right here. This is a more modern picture. So Ellis Island has grown up. The trees have kind of grown up around it. When you got to Ellis Island, according to the reading, which did not occur at Ellis Island? There was not a language exam at Ellis Island. There was a mental exam to see because this is a point where social Darwinism, eugenics is taking off, and the fear is that immigrants are stupid, literally, intellectually not bright, and so you better test them for their mental acuity before you let them into the United States. So you could be rejected based on your mental ability. You would not be rejected based on understanding English. They had all sorts of interpreters there at Ellis Island, depending on which ships were coming in that day. They kind of had an idea of which ships were coming from where, but I can pretty much guarantee you that there were Italian translators on Ellis Island at all times. So you can see here, so they would give a quick inspection of each immigrant. We'll talk about that in a moment. Mental exam, we already said, and chalk marking to describe possible problems. So if you had a weird limp, they might write something. If it looked like you had some sort of infection of your scalp, they would write something. If it looked like you were out of breath, they might write something. And they just would mark it on your jacket so that later on when you went into your actual medical exam, they had an idea of what they were looking for. But one of the very first things they did was flip your eyelid up to look for trachoma. You can see here, U.S. inspectors examining eyes of immigrants. These inspectors are also looking, if this is a ship of, let's say, Italians, you're listening to see if they're speaking Italian, if they're dressed as Italians. And if they're not, you might question why they're there. But right now, you're just looking for a really, really contagious eye disease called trachoma that could have easily been picked up on the ship coming across the Atlantic. As you can imagine, we're living through a pandemic right now. Begin to imagine what kinds of diseases could pass on that ship. But one of the quickest ones to check for was trachoma. You just flipped up the eyelid and looked for evidence of trachoma. Trachoma, if left untreated, would cause blindness. So you don't want people bringing that in, especially immigrants who might not readily go seek medical care. You could get an outbreak of trachoma, and also that would lead to blindness. So what they would do is they would quarantine, imagine that, quarantine these people at Ellis Island until their case of trachoma cleared up. But that's just one step in the process of getting into Ellis Island. As we already mentioned, there's a whole medical slew of things that they're going to actually physically check each immigrant for. And there's an excellent movie. It's kind of like, a lot of people think that it's too artsy. It's a story about a family from Sicily coming to the United States, and the golden doors, like this idea of Ellis Island and the Statue of Liberty. The golden door is, all you got to do is make it off this island and your life will be set. You know, the idea that the streets are paved with gold in the United States, the idea of the American dream, that everyone can make it, which, you know, for a lot of immigrants back then and today, yeah, you might look at an immigrant situation today and go, that's unfair, that's terrible. I was reading, listening to a podcast about not bed swapping, but bed sharing. So like, let's say you're an immigrant that works in a meat packing facility. You work from 12 at night till 8 in the morning. You come back, you wake someone up, you sleep in their bed. So you actually don't even have enough beds for all the workers. They actually just share beds, not at the same time. But a lot of those workers today say, well, I'm making more than I would have made at home. You know, I mean, I have to go through difficulties. And I think while we watch this video and you might go, that's unfair, for a lot of these immigrants, they're probably going, yeah, maybe it's not fair, but it's what I got to do. And all I got to do is get through Ellis Island, and then it's the land of milk and honey. It's all gravy from here on out. So this clip is from near the end of the film, and it highlights this family from Sicily. You'll see the grandma being examined. You'll see a dad and two of his sons being examined at the actual examination table. And then you'll actually see some of the mental tests as well.
Ancora. Tira fuori la lingua. Più. Da un lato. Più fuori, dai. Bravo.
Breathe in.
Più la lingua. Esci fuori la lingua. Più fuori. Più fuori.
Have you been ill?
Sei stato malato?
Can he speak?
Sai parlare?
Have you been ill? Can you speak? Can you hear me? Can you hear me what
Sai
I'm saying?
parlare? Perché non rispondi?
Chiesto, me figlio hai chiesto, me figlio.
Non puoi convincerlo di che parli?
È una parola, c'è una testatura, però vedere come travaglia, hai chiesto mi chiudo un mulo. Levati ste cause, bene. Levati ste cause, bene.
Ti volevo fare queste cause. Ah, non dai!
Tu non ci dai queste cose, tuo frate. Te.
Che fai?
Te. Non ti scantare.
Stand like this.
Come Picciotto viaggiò, cose, senti...
Follow me this way.
No, ora si leva, ora si leva, ora si leva, ora si leva.
Devi andare dall'altra parte. Andiamo.
Ora si leva. Mio figlio con mio. Aspetta, mio figlio va a stare con mio.
Va bene, dai.
Che è sta cosa?
Dai, devi ritornare, dai, vieni.
Ci dici che è mio figlio.
Puoi venire domani, dobbiamo fare
Ma che
l'ispezione.
ispezione? Non ti scandare, bene. Ma ci dici che è mio figlio.
Vieni.
Please lie down.
Si stenda di fianco, signora.
Signora, si deve sdraiare. Di fianco. Così, con la testa qua. Così.
Sta combinando? Lassima di tuo. Ah, se non lassima di tuo, proprio sta combinando.
La signora, è normale.
Se me ne vado in dopo! Un po' che sta toccata, nudo!
Excuse me, madam. This lady is not used to this kind of examination.
Are you English, miss?
Yes, I am.
You came with Italians?
Yes, ma'am.
Is your husband traveling with you?
My fiancé, he's supposed to meet me here.
It is highly uncommon for an English lady to be traveling with Italians. You'll be questioned about that.
Non avere paura, è tempo, eh? Pensa bene a quello che fai.
Math test.
Quante gambe ha un cavallo?
4.
E quante gambe ha un cavallo più una gallina?
4 e 2.
4 and 2. Che fanno?
Camminano.
No. Quante gambe vedi in totale? Quante gambe hanno un maiale, una gallina e una capra?
Ok.
Va bene. Uè. Va bene.
Caccia a casa e qua si possono asciugare cose o potremmo pure fare l'armadio, ci potremmo mettere l'armadio.
Good and gold.
Allora, lei è in mezzo al mare, in una piccola barca. C'è una grande tempesta. Nella barca con lei ci sono 2 sacchi. Uno è un sacco pieno di pane e l'altro è un sacco pieno di oro. Tu ti devi salvare. Quale sacco butti?
Ma perché a tirare questi sacchi? Io faccio l'oro, un pozzettare l'oro.
He says he can't throw the gold.
Un pane e un mancio.
He'd eat the bread.
Ah, un ghetto niente. Un ghetto niente.
Nothing. He wouldn't throw anything.
Giusto? Giusto, vero?
I'm ready. Done. I love table games. May I ask, I thought you were looking for illnesses and contagious diseases here.
Unfortunately, ma'am, it has been scientifically proven that lack of intelligence is genetically inherited, hence contagious, in a way. We are trying to prevent below average people from mixing with our citizens.
What a modern vision.
So that gives you an idea of a lot of the parts that you went through when you went to Ellis Island. Now, if you got through all of that, then you waited in line. Again, you can see here on, if you look at the jackets that people are wearing, you can see that they've got a little identifier. That's the ship that they came off from. And so you were waiting in line for the final checkout. You can kind of see this line snakes around like any line that you've gone through for customs or waiting in line for in an airport. And the final part was you kind of, immigrants at Ellis Island, you were checked out finally by this man right here. And he was checking you into the United States. He was looking for your name, cross your name with the ship list of who was supposedly on that ship. And this is where you were registered into the United States. And this is where some immigrants would change their name to sound more American. They might drop a Polish SKI at this point. And it pains me to say this, but at a time of high anti-Semitism within the world, some people of Jewish heritage would change their name to a less sounding Jewish name. And we'll be able to talk about whether or not that happened that you're aware of to any of your families as well. But once you got through, then this is what you saw. So here you are on the other, you are through the golden door, so to speak, and you are looking across at New York City, the skyline of New York City, and you're waiting for a ferry to come across from Manhattan and take you into the city. So now you made it. You made it through the voyage, you made it through the medical exam, and by the way, well over 95% of immigrants at Ellis Island got through. It took them usually an average of about 2 hours to get through the whole process, which isn't all that bad when you consider what they were going, what the intensity of the various tests you had to take. But I do want you to look at this, and this is part 2, question 1, or if you're in distance learning, this would be part 3, question 1. This is the PowerPoint slide. What would your worries be as you waited for the ferry to take you to New York City? And those answers are going to vary. We want you to think about that. We will be talking about that probably with a word cloud or with a clicker response if we're out of distance learning, or simply with a breakout room. But that ends this particular episode, and notice, watch this. Hi, there I am. I hope you have a great day, and we will continue our discussion about immigration in the next episode, where we will be looking at some of the difficulties immigrants face and watching an amazing clip from a film called God Grew Tired of Us.